Hi, this is Sarit Switzer, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast, a podcast devoted to the teachings of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi as recorded in his most famous work, the Tanya. My hope for this show is to make these teachings accessible and relatable to the average person, regardless of prior Jewish education or affiliation. The episodes follow the prescribed daily study portions and are meant to serve as practical lessons in how to live your life as your true self and develop an authentic and powerful relationship with your Creator. I have personally experienced the effects the study of this work has had on me, and I'm excited to share what I can of this knowledge with you. So please join me on this journey of learning, self-growth, and connection with your source. Hi, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast. This is episode 155 for the 25th of Nissan in a leap year. So we've been talking a lot about this idea of cultivating fear of God through different types of meditations, different types of exercises, contemplations, and things like that. And in today's Tanya, which is really the conclusion of this chapter 42, has been the theme of the entire chapter, the Alter Rebbe is actually going to bring everything back to basics. And he's going to talk about the idea that while it's really nice to meditate upon God and try to understand God to the best of our abilities and really use our minds to contemplate on the greatness of God, there's also something to be said about going about things in a more simplistic way, coming to a more simplistic acceptance of our yoke of heaven, having what we usually refer to as simple faith. So we see that this is actually hinted at in the fact that we actually have a law in Judaism that we're supposed to appoint a king over ourselves, which seems a little strange at first glance. And the Alter Rebbe had brought this up earlier in the chapter, like, why do we have this law? Why is there a law to anoint a king? And in a figurative sense, when we understand appointing a king over ourselves, the ultimate king is really God. And ultimately, what really this idea of appointing a king is there to teach us is to teach us the value of subservience, to teach us that subservience in and of itself, without any kind of understanding as to why we're being subservient, what's going on, what being subservient accomplished or whatever, really is actually something that is very important, and it's something to be valued, and it's something to actually have every single day and at every moment. So let's get into the text and see how the Alter Rebbe explains this. So the Alter Rebbe says that also, in addition to everything we've been learning so far, namely about thinking about God as a king, remember yesterday we talked about thinking about God as a famous person and seeing how everything in the world are the garments of God and recognizing God in the greatness of creation. So in addition to all of these kind of exercises, one must at the same time always remember that which the sages taught, that we should all accept upon ourselves, that we should have acceptance of the yoke of kingdom upon ourselves, which is really the idea of this law that we were given in Devarim chapter 17 verse 15 of Som tasim alecha melech, that you should anoint for yourself, that you should appoint for yourself a king. As we explained earlier in the Tanya, so we've been talking about this idea previously of using like the visualization of a king and understanding our relationship with a king as a parallel to be able to understand our relationship with God. Because why should we think about God as a king? Like, why is this an apt analogy to use in terms of thinking about God? Is because a king sets aside all of the worlds, all of the higher worlds, all of the lower worlds, and he unifies his kingship to us. Like he uniquely puts his focus on us, and we accept this. So it's like, imagine if like you had a very, very powerful person in the world, like one of the most powerful people in the world. Imagine like Elon Musk, is maybe the closest thing that we can think of, or the president of the United States, somebody very, very powerful who had all the power in the world and could focus on anything. And they chose to focus on you and your little town, your little city, your little family, and you specifically as an individual. That's basically what God is doing. God is the greatest king of all, yet he chooses to focus on us. So it's our duty to respond to him and our duty to serve him. And this is the idea of when we bow down in the tefillah of Shmoneh Esrei. This is the idea of accepting the yoke of heaven, when we do this. So this is the idea of the bowing down that we do in the prayer of Shemona Esrei and the Amida prayer after we accept the yoke of heaven in speech, when we say it out loud in Kriya Shema, like when we begin in the prayer and we say Kriya Shema, then we go back and we review this acceptance that we have when we bow down in Shemona Esrei, when we bow. That it's basically like us saying that we are actually and in reality and in truth accepting upon ourselves the yoke of heaven, the yoke of God in action for real, as is explained more elsewhere. So that's it for today. So it's a pretty short section today. So the main idea is really emphasizing this idea of accepting the yoke of God, accepting the idea of being subservient just on a simple level, like I said in the title to this chapter, the virtue of subservience. There's something virtuous about just being subservient, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's not something that's born out of intellectual analysis or in contemplation and that kind of thing. There's something valuable and something that is necessary about just accepting day after day after day that yoke of heaven on a purely simplistic level. So that is it for today, and we will continue tomorrow. We begin chapter 43, and I will speak to you then. Thanks for listening to the It Is Taught podcast, hosted by Sarit Switzer. This podcast is dedicated in loving memory of my maternal grandfather, Avraham Yitzchak ben Binyamin HaKohen of blessed memory. Music by Shoshana. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, please share it with others and subscribe on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review. To find out more about the It Is Taught project, including more information on my soon-to-be published book, please visit our website, itistaught.com. To catch the latest from me, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow, and until then, have a great day.